Hi and welcome to the Recruitment and Beyond podcast. My name's Ewan Anderson. I'm the Marketing Director here at Eden Scott. This is your essential guide to navigating the ever-changing world of human resources and recruitment. We chat with industry-leading figures to give you the inside track on growing and developing the very best teams. Hi and welcome back to the Recruitment and Beyond podcast. We are joined today by Woody from Willow. Woody is the co-founder of Willow, and great to have you along, Woody.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ewan. Great to be here. Obviously, you've been supporting us from the very beginning, pretty much. So
That's
5
right,
years
that's
of partnership.
Yes, I remember those days, right, 5 years ago, sitting in the old office chatting away. So it was good. It's fantastic to see where Willow's got to and the trajectory that you're on. So and that's kind of part of what we want to talk about today is just how Willow's its journey from where you were and to where you are now and what's in the future, but also just to get a handle on how video interviewing and what that looks like for companies now and how it can really help businesses to find the right talent and find it in the right way, I guess. So I think that's where we'll start. But it'd be great to get some insight from you, Woody, in terms of what Willow does, so our listeners get a real handle on what Willow is and how it can help their business.
Yeah, sure. And look, I think what's really interesting is what you said straight from the beginning there, which is like how to find people in the right way. And really what Willow is we're a simple to use human first candidate screening tool, essentially. And that means, rather than you having to schedule loads of interviews, do lots of inconsistent telephone interviews, or at the extreme other end, automate humans out of the process altogether, rather than using that technology, Willow really sits in the middle and keeps the candidate kind of front and center by giving them a voice. Whether that be video, audio, text, etc., and essentially creates this kind of virtual interview or screening environment that ultimately gets candidates in front of recruiters quicker and enables them to, really focus on that top talent and invest more time with them. So yeah, that's what.
And in terms of the evolution of the product, you guys, we've worked with you for a while, and it's always been such a really easy to use system, but was that always the premise right from the very start? It was about the ease of use and integration for people to be able to use that system for their business.
Yeah, I think. No, I don't think. I know the big focus for us was that we believed there were really two customers in the equation, and a lot of our kind of the predecessor businesses that did similar to what we do was really just focused on the recruiter. And focused on how to almost discriminate candidates out of the process, right? Make it as hard as possible to make them fall over their own answers and, basically catch them out. And it was like the aha, gotcha kind of platform. We were more about, let's focus on the first customer, which is the candidate, and actually make it an enjoyable experience going through like a one-way video interview. And the way that you do that is you make it completely frictionless. You make it really simple. You make it so that the candidate can do unlimited retakes and all of this stuff. So that really started off the journey of simplicity, was candidates want it simple. And then we sort of realized consciously decided that we wanted the whole platform to just remain as simple as possible. My background was in recruitment agencies. So I knew things like hiring managers don't want to log into loads of different platforms and remember passwords just to view a candidate. The CV was rife, and the great thing about a CV is you can just fling it over in an email. Somebody opens the CV and makes a judgment. And it's all of those kind of frictionless things, again, that led us to go, right, we've got to keep this user-friendly, simple, easy to log into. If we're ever going to challenge this idea that CVs should be, relegated to a thing of the past, you've got to make your product as simple as opening a document and reviewing it.
Yeah. No, we talked the other week there just about the types of companies you're working with now, and obviously I think it's over 5,000 businesses that Will is working with now, and the likes of EDF or NHS Scotland. What sort of feedback? Because I mean, just as you touched on there, it's very much about making the platform as candidate friendly as possible. So what sort of feedback are you getting from these guys, from the candidates and from the companies?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily feedback from the candidates, but we ran a report literally this morning, on our completion rates, and they're up to 90% completion rates. So if you've got, 90% of the candidates that you're sending to this platform are actually completing it, that's a huge indicator that you're probably doing something right. And also an amazing gateway for all of that talent that, if you were relying on a telephone interview in the past, you'd probably only get through to 25% of them. Because of time restraints, schedules, all of that kind of stuff. So you're really opening the door for all of that talent to really have a voice again in that process, but removing that heavy lifting and that admin that gets in the way for recruiters. So that's really if you think about the feedback that we get from our customers, EDF is a great example. They calculated that they reduced the amount of recruiter admin by 50%. In the process, which is huge. That's such a massive amount of time that they've then got back to ultimately make the candidate experience more personal for those that are going to progress, basically. So that's the feedback that we get from candidates. 8.6 out of 10. All of this wonderful stats, but the fact is that they're getting through the process, they're getting seen more, and therefore, they're a lot happier with that scenario. And then from a recruiter perspective, shortlists are shorter and higher quality, and they spend more time with the right people.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's given people, and I guess this will go on to talk about technology, but it's given people the opportunity to get away from some of the admin tasks that were labour intensive, to really focus on, as you pointed out, spending more time doing what you want to do, which is spending time with the candidates, finding the right people, and engaging with them on a more, I suppose, more human basis. We talked a few weeks ago to Andy Williamson from Welcome Brain, and he explained just how difficult it is for those that are neurodiverse in some of the recruitment processes. Does Willow, I suppose, is Willow a good opportunity for that to try and help that process?
Well, speaking as a neurodiverse individual who obviously created the tool with another neurodiverse individual, I would say 100% yes. I'm dyslexic, CVs are rubbish, and to be frank, now I'm sure we'll get onto this, but most of them are written by AI anyway. If I was applying for a job now, I would literally be leveraging AI for every single application that's written based. Regardless. So, there's a massive debate going on there. But really what Willow allows neurodiverse individuals to do is, in the comfort of their own environment, take a screening call, test, text, audio, whatever, without the pressures of somebody randomly calling you out of the blue, which puts massive strains on your cognitive capability. So I've got dyslexia, I've got a short-term memory problem. It's much better for me to plan when I'm going to do something in advance than somebody to ring me out of the blue and I've forgotten they were going to call me. If you've got ASD, for example, the time it takes for you to process a question is longer and think about the answer. That doesn't mean that the quality of your answer is any worse. It just means it takes longer. So absolutely, being able to sit in your own room, with the support that you may need as well. We've got plenty of individuals. I spoke to one of the TA lead at one of the Team Taylor breakfasts, and we talked about the use of asynchronous video, and she said she loved it. She had a son that was autistic, and it basically meant that she was able to sit next to the son and guide him through the entire process. Which, imagine that if somebody called you for a telephone interview versus, click on the button and do it when you're comfortable. It's totally different. So I truly believe, from a neurodiversity perspective, we're offering different opportunities to people to get their best foot forward.
Brilliant. And actually, just as a follow on from that, because again, you and I talked about this quite early on in the journey. It's just about, I mean, your blogs and some of the content on your website discuss this around cultural fit, and also just the fear around potential biases that may be there, because obviously, from a CV point of view, you could anonymize that, and then you're looking at skills and you're looking at that sort of stuff. Whether it's obviously video interviews, there can be, whether they're subconscious or conscious biases that can come into that. So how does Willow deal with that situation, and how do you get around that?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would challenge back is, what skills can you confidently identify from a CV?
Good point. Yeah.
You can redact as much as you want, but that person has written their own homework, not their own homework. And time is a terrible indicator of somebody's success within a role. And I guess what Willow allows individuals to do is tell the stories that you wouldn't typically write on a CV. I wouldn't write about the intricacies of starting a business whilst also trying to play hockey 3 times a week and representing, Wales at over 35s level. Let's drop that in.
Yeah, it's not easy to get that down a bit of paper, but drop it into the interview.
Drop it into a video or a podcast.
Exactly.
But the point is, the questions are more specific to the role, and the answers are more specific to that individual, and it's giving you a competency level of insight into that person. Firstly, you're assessing the things that I think are going to be absolute gold dust for the future, which is the ability to communicate and have great soft skills, which you absolutely cannot see on a piece of paper. And then secondly, you also have the ability to really audit what that person said and hold them accountable to it. So I'm here as a real person giving you my answer. Once you've joined the organization, I can go back to that video or the audio and go, hey, this is what you said here. You're not displaying these characteristics. What is it that we're missing, or whatever it may be? So that's point number 2. And then point number 3 around like biases, I totally agree. And I think within organizations, if you have somebody that's going to be proactively biased, they're going to be proactively biased, whether it's in the CV, the video, or when they meet them face to face. What we, I guess, enable organizations to do is, firstly, you can have like 3 different people, which I genuinely, not based in any scientific knowledge that I can cite, but one of the best ways to have a really fair and equitable process is to have a panel of individuals assess each video, and ensuring that panel is diverse. Very, very difficult to do that without causing a huge amount of anxiety for a candidate by putting 3 people in front of them, or 3 interview stages, or whatever it may be. Whereas you send somebody a video link, they record it, and then 3 people watch it. One of them watches it in the morning between a meeting, one of them watches it at lunch, one of them watches it in the evening. You've created a scenario where you can have a really equitable process. And then you can also go back and go, okay, here are the 10 people that you saw on video. These are the 2 people that you chose. Have you noticed anything about those individuals? And what was the difference between their answers and the other 8 that you thought these people aren't going to be right? So you can even use it as a training tool to kind of uncover that unconscious bias.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think the reality is that bias, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is there anyway. So actually, using a tool like Willow to try and find that out and help your organization on a larger scale to try and avoid that, it's a really valuable tool for that. I think we're going to do a quick break, and we'll be back after this. I'm interested around this CV, this getting rid of the CV. So just talk to me, because I know that you and Ewan have talked about this in the press, and you've talked about this in your blogs and so on, and getting rid of the CV. So tell me, how do we do that, and what does the future look like without it?
It's a great question. The future's bright.
The future's bright.
The future's CV-less.
Good.
I think, look, we have a big passion for it, because we just see it every single day of the week that organizations that rely upon CVs are relying upon their own opinion of a piece of paper that somebody's either chucked through AI or have written themselves and embellished. 70. So Business Insider did a survey of job seekers, and 75% of them admitted to lying on their CV. So it just isn't an accurate representation of an individual. Point number one. So it's inaccurate. Secondly, unless you redact all of the information and you're left with the skills that somebody's lied about, it's also based on a lot of bias, because I'm looking, as a recruiter, in 7.5 seconds, I'm looking at the name, I'm looking at where they went to school, where they live now, where they last worked. If any of those things don't resonate with me in 7.5 seconds, or worse, I used to work somewhere and I thought it was horrible, or, the individual lives in an area that I unconsciously or consciously deem to be, not suitable or whatever.
Yeah.
I've made a decision on that individual without even thinking about their skills or their potential. So, and then third and finally, it is the fact that, and this is something we're hearing every single day now, is that paper-based or text-based applications are just being manipulated by AI nonstop.
Right.
So they're the three kind of main reasons why we think it should be left behind. What the future looks like was the other part of your question. I think everybody talks about skills-based and that kind of stuff. Call it what you want. I think it's qualities, skills, competencies, and, behaviors, basically.
Yeah.
And throughout each part of your process, I believe, without a CV, you can do a better job of understanding those 4 kind of core things that are going to determine whether somebody's good for your role or not.
But I guess that's the question. How? Is it a case of using something like Willow? Is it a case of a combination of different factors? If you're working for NHS Scotland or as you say, EDF, what is the process for people engaging? Because as a candidate, I suppose the worry is some people are very good at writing, very good at their CV, drafting, and they see that as an opportunity. There's still, as you mentioned before, the requirement to sift through a number of applications. Some will be right, some won't be right. And the 4 points you touched on there, we hear that a lot. It's so much more about who the person is rather than necessarily the skills they have written down on a CV. So, I totally take that point. But I guess it's just trying to understand that process. Is it a combination of different factors rather than just relying solely on one written piece of paper, as you say, that could be AI manipulated now?
So I run a workshop on this and the reality is that it should be different for each role, which I think is where the complexity and I'm reticent to say apathy, but it kind of is apathy or resistance is a better word. It's not. I think most people that probably listen to this podcast probably don't want to rely on CVs anymore, but the friction comes when they go, "Hello, hiring manager, I'm not sending you a CV of this person." That's the big blocker. So the workshop focuses on 3 things. Firstly, winning the hearts and minds of at least one hiring manager who's willing to be your first follower, your champion in the attraction phase, and really understanding what skills and qualities and behaviors are we actually looking for.
Okay.
Then screening. So how, and I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, is at scale. People think they need to be a yes or a no. Which is just not true. They need to be directionally yes or a no. They need to be, they're worth investing more time in, or we're not investing more time in. Not this person is definitely right for the job. So in that scenario, in screening, you're talking about your basic knockout questions, logistics, right to work, all of that stuff that you can ask at a top level. And then it's, okay, well, what's the quality or the sort of underlying quality that I can screen at a high level? So it might be, I want to do a psychometric. It might be that I want to do a task-based assessment, with something like Arctic Shores, for example. It might be that you want to see the person's personality and how they communicate. Therefore, a Willow would be amazing. It might be that you have the resource to do telephone interviews and that's what you want to do. But absolutely having something that anchors to the skills that you've got, but you can see as an overarching sort of or underpinning skill that goes, yes, this person's worth investing more time in. And then the last part is, and I've seen some brilliant videos on LinkedIn recently. I don't know if you've seen them too, of an individual basically doing like a mock of a competency-based interview where the person walks in or joins the video call and she goes, "Oh, I see you went to Loughborough University. That's amazing." And it's like the reality of a competency-based interview. And it's so true. Like if you can immediately connect with somebody on that basis, you're like, right, this is the best candidate ever. And it's just human nature. In that element, what are the things you do need to understand in depth? So spend 30 minutes getting to know the individual, cultural fit, standard competency questions, but then spend the other 30 minutes setting them a task that's going to tell you way more about their ability to deliver than any question about how they used to do things would.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess it is a big leap of faith for people, but it's on the flip side, the technology is there, because I'm just thinking of processes. I'm thinking of how you get through that, but the technology is there now that says exactly as you've just said there. There's some core things that we need, in terms of right to work and so on that some companies require, and then after that, why not have 5 questions, put them on something like Willow, and really get in and go through them and screen them as quickly or as well as you need to, and then you're on to the next stage where it is an interview. So you're almost removing the need for the CV. It's a good point. I mean, it absolutely is. But I do suspect it will take a leap of faith, because it is a huge change, isn't it? It's a massive change to say, actually, we're not going to rely on something we've used for
since 1482, when Leonardo da Vinci created the CV. So it's fairly entrenched, I would say, after whatever, 600.
No, absolutely. And I guess just as a follow-on, I guess, from that, I mean, we talked again a few weeks ago about the introduction of AI, and you've mentioned it in terms of the CV, but in terms of the whole hiring process, and obviously there's a fear element to the introduction of AI. But where do you see that as part of that process, AI's in a positive way rather than a negative way of people using it to write their CV? And will Willow be using the AI to develop the product going forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'd just come back to candidates first. Like, the challenge with AI in the candidate market right now is its uneducated use of AI. So somebody will take a job description and say, write a CV, with this. Then it becomes fabricated information. Whereas if you can use it to augment and heighten what you are good at, i.e., like just highlight what you are actually good at, then great. Like, use AI all the time. But what's happening that we're seeing is, candidates straight out of university are just copy and pasting questions into ChatGPT and then copying and pasting the answer into a text-based answer, and then every question is the same, and they don't realize that that's not going to get them a job, because you can so clearly see they've used AI. Like, every question and answer looks the same. So I definitely think there's a lot of work to be done from that perspective. Like, how do we use AI to actually give candidates a better way of showing you how amazing they are? Because there definitely is like a benefit to that. And then on the other side, again, from a recruiter perspective, so Willow absolutely is leveraging AI through Willow Intelligence, which is part of the platform. And the whole point of Willow Intelligence is to get you to the information that you need at a level of confidence that you can make a decision on hiring. So we believe that recruitment should be human-centric. You should get the information that you need so that you as a human can connect with that individual and make your own decision. But with the confidence of the information that's been gleaned from an AI tool like Willow Intelligence. And I think the best tools out there will realize that over the next 18 months, there's going to be this battle between candidates that aren't using AI right, and recruiters that potentially are automating too much decision.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, they're going to clash, and everybody's going to have hired people that can't do jobs, or they're going to have removed humans from the recruitment process altogether and start getting really bad candidate feedback or whatever.
Yeah.
I think we'll start to get this sort of equilibrium of, okay, recruitment is still about finding and connecting people to people, not about AI assessing AI, and then we'll end up in a good place.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a transitional journey we have to go on here, because I was at an event about AI and ethics, and one of the suggestions was that humans are still in control of this process, and they need to be. How long that lasts, I don't know, but AI, from an AI point of view, it still requires that human interaction. We had LinkedIn in here, doing a bit of update for our team on AI and how to use it, and it still requires the human interaction. It still requires you to use it effectively, and I think that touches on what you were just saying there about it's a good tool. It can enhance what you're doing, but you can't be the tool that does everything for you. It's not there to, as you say, write a CV that's bespoke for that job, because once you get into the job in a couple of weeks, it'll be very easy to work out that you have no idea what's involved in that role, and you'll be moving on. So it's the use of AI. I think you're absolutely right. The correct use of AI can make a massive difference to everybody, but I think it's going to take a bit of a clash and a bit of a getting a lot of mistakes made along the way, isn't it? But it is there to benefit us all, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, look, in the future, the rate of change within AI is so monumental that it probably will replace a lot of the recruitment process, because, if you go into education, but this is the problem, right? Is all of these things are interconnected. So I, as a human being, go into education, I pass some exams. That exam gives you a score. It doesn't tell you about my capability to perform in the workforce. Whereas imagine a world in the future where I go to school to learn things that I can actually use on my day-to-day. And I come out with a score that's relevant to a certain role that's been assessed by AI, and that AI automatically matches me to 10 different organizations where I could deliver amazing things. But that's such an unbelievable thought, miles and miles away, that right now humans have to use the tool to save time, but still make decisions and connect with people.
As I say, I think it's there for good, but I think it can definitely make some mistakes. It's not perfect, is it? But it's growing so quickly, it's developing so quickly that it's actually going to be a phenomenal help in the future. And you guys, I noticed you guys use it for just tailoring some questions and specific questions to ask as part of competency-based I guess, questions on your system. Is that a case of it continually learning about these questions as well and developing the questions that you're looking for?
Yeah. So Willow Intelligence is very much in the sort of beta early phase. The ambition is to be able to, ingest data from things like the job descriptions, the decisions that have been made in the past, all of that kind of stuff, and then suggest. So at the moment, we just suggest competency questions based on things that have probably not been talked about from a candidate perspective. Again, like the whole point of what we want to do is ensure that candidates have the best opportunity to put their very best foot forward and show you what you're capable of, when in reality, recruitment is really hard to do that, because you can't sit behind somebody for a day and see how they work at full efficiency, which would be the ideal solution. We suggest questions that you can ask. We're building out different templates of assessments that you'll basically be able to take off the shelf and then change to whatever you want them to be. With our kind of AI assistants, the idea being again that we just get better information about each candidate that comes through the process, and also the whole idea of like having an AI summary of the candidate with some questions to the hiring manager at the bottom is to try and engage hiring managers with this whole idea that you don't need a CV. What you need is a question that relates to something earlier in the process, not, I've got your CV, on the telephone interview, you were asked how you worked at X, and now you're in front of me and I'm a hiring manager, not a recruiter. So I don't know what question to ask. Oh, I see you worked at X. Tell me about your time there. For candidates, it's really frustrating telling somebody the same thing again and again and again, even if they're different people.
No, that's absolutely fair. And in terms of security, I appreciate you guys will be, this will be top of the list, but just in terms of people thinking about using the system, I presume there's lots of data in there. There's lots of information you're keeping on people, and security is top of the list. I would imagine in terms of cybersecurity.
Yeah, I mean, last year we got ISO 27001 certified, which is awesome. We are further enhancing our security. So yeah, absolutely. In terms of the data that we store, like under PII and stuff like that, it's not actually that much. But obviously what we are storing is people's stories, which are just as precious to them. So we take it incredibly seriously to make sure we're a solid platform.
So going forward then, what's next for Willow? What are the plans, and where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time?
5 years' time is such a long time. Such a long time. How about 5 weeks?
I said that, and then after our conversation about I thought that's just too long. Where do you see yourself in the future?
Where I see Willow in the future is relatively straightforward. I think we want to continue to enhance the candidate journey to give recruiters access to the top talent as quickly as possible, right? Whatever that means. I think we will go, deeper into other aspects of the hiring cycle, whether that's through partnerships or whether that's stuff that we do ourselves. And ultimately, you will see my face talking about ridding the world of the CV, probably too much, to be frank. And anybody that is interested in finding out more about the CV-free movement, there's a whole website dedicated to it called cvfree.me, and we run free workshops for TA organisations to basically build that CV-free process and how you can engage with your hiring managers. So I think you'll just see the business as a whole keep moving towards that motion of, how can we remove this antiquated piece of not even technology, but paper, and instead, give candidates a better voice and give recruiters better talent quicker.
Yeah, brilliant. And we tend to finish just often with 3 kind of top tips for our listeners, just so that they can make the best use of whether it's the tool or whatever we're talking about that day. So from your point of view, in terms of technology for HR and recruitment, what are your sort of top 3 tips? I appreciate one of them might be to get rid of the CV, but maybe 2 others then.
Yeah, so definitely look at how you can engage a hiring manager to get rid of the CV by running a proof of concept that is properly measured and really shows the outcomes, because that is going to be, it's going to be one brave individual within your organization that turns around and goes, I'm willing to give this a go. And then taking it from there. Second thing that I would absolutely advise any TA professional to think about at the moment is how you're educating your candidate market around the use of AI, because we've talked about that before. I saw a really interesting LinkedIn post. I didn't get a response, but they decided that a candidate had cheated by using AI, and I asked the question, well, did you tell them they couldn't use AI?
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, you're the fool, not them. They're just using the technology available. It's like doing a maths test with a calculator, and then being told at the end, by the way, you're not allowed to use a calculator. You've failed. Yeah. And I just find that, that's the problem that we're facing right now. Yeah. Is nobody's telling candidates how to use it properly. Yeah. So that's the second thing that I would say, which is a big bit of work. And then I think the third thing really is kind of linked to those 2 things. The future of TA is really focused on talent planning and, talent mapping within the organization. It's being an advisor as opposed to just an out-and-out recruiter. And I think what organizations like yours have done amazingly is not just being a CV throwing organization, and instead building and understanding the best practices within recruitment to get the best talent. And that's the difference between who is going to stay in their TA roles and who's going to really love and understand the human part of recruitment, and those that are going to get replaced by simple admin tasks that are just used by AI. So that would be my third bit of advice. I don't know if any of that's any good.
No, brilliant.
Excellent.
Listen, thank you very much for your time today, Woody. It's been excellent. It's been a really good chat, and an area I'm really interested in terms of technology and how it's going to impact the industry and what we do and how we make a better experience for our candidates and our customers. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll catch up again soon.
You're very welcome. Cheers, Ewan. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Recruitment and Beyond podcast. Hopefully there was plenty of insight for you to take back to your teams. So don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. And if you can, leave us a review. We really appreciate all the feedback and support we get. It makes a massive difference.